Welcome to Design Your Way, the podcast that helps you build a creative career that truly reflects who you are. You're finishing your studies or just starting out in the professional world, in architecture, design, or any other creative field, and you're wondering how to navigate this transition, find your path, and build a career that feels meaningful to you. I'm Louise Blanche, a final year student in architecture in France, passionate about creation, communication, and entrepreneurship. Here we talk about everything we don't learn in school: how to land your first job, understand the reality of the profession, how to create your own project, and how to present yourself in a way that attracts the right opportunities. We'll meet twice a month for expert interviews, conversations with other students and young professionals, and some more personal episodes where I will share my reflections and the lessons I've learned along the way. Whether you're a student, a recent graduate, or already starting your career, this podcast is here to support you, to give you practical tools, and to inspire you to move forward at your own pace. So, are you ready to build your career as intentionally as your projects? Welcome to Design Your Way. Hi guys, welcome back to this new episode. I'm so excited to be here today to talk about mindset shifts. As a final year architecture student, I'm asking myself a lot of questions about what will happen for me in the next few years, but I also try to look at other people. And today I tried to gather all the mindset shifts that I think creatives should have in 2026, because the world is evolving, the problems are changing, and we are having to adjust. So here are the 5 mindset shifts I think creatives need in 2026. Let's get started. It's the beginning of the year, and that's when most of us take a bit of time to reflect on our goals and on our career paths, but I have to say they look very blurry. We're pretty much all in the same boat, I think. 2026 looks pretty tough for creatives. When I see the uncertain economic and geopolitical state, when I see how hard it is to enter in the job market, and also the questions that the rise of AI are asking, the future can look a bit blurry. I'm personally asking myself many of these questions, like what will happen and how to best prepare for it, but also how I can do things that are aligned with who I am and also with the current situation. And also it feels like now to get a job you need to be an expert, but as a soon to graduate student, like I'm not an expert because I'm just a student and I think it's normal. So there is a few things I've been thinking about on maybe how to change our view of things so we can make the most out of the time that we have. So if you're also feeling uncertain, if you're also doubting your path or what will happen to you, I think it's pretty normal. I think we're all in the same boat, and it doesn't mean that you're failing. I think everyone seems to have it all figured out over on social media, but the truth is that everyone's really scared, I think. And yeah, this episode is not about predicting the future or telling you to become an influencer or an AI expert. I just want to focus on how we can think differently so you don't burn out trying to keep up, and you can just focus on the things that feel right for you. So let's get started. So mindset shift number 1, you don't have to know where you are going. This is definitely for all the students out there, but also the young professionals that feel like they need to have everything figured out. I think we were raised, and it's this big pressure of having to find the right path that, you know, when you're choosing your studies, this will define your whole career and your whole path, and once you've made this one choice, you won't ever be able to leave it. I think it's especially true after graduation, where it feels like you need to know what you want to do, otherwise you won't find anything. Personally, yes, I think it's great if you know what you want to do, but if you don't, I think it's also fine. And maybe you can just choose what you want to do when you're trying it. So yeah, the studies that you do, the work experience that you get, of course, this will dictate part of your path because of the experience you will get and also because of the knowledge you will get, and maybe you'll find stuff that you actually enjoy. But it doesn't mean that you need to know exactly where you're going to take action. Actually, I think taking action before knowing what you're doing is quite fine. And it can also lead you to places which you would have never thought before. Because I really believe that you get new skills through every single experience, and those skills can be very valuable and will bring something to your life probably. And it doesn't mean that you need to know the point of finding them. You know, we're all on our own journey, and a journey is made of very different chapters. And I think it's even more true now because like people are changing jobs or sectors pretty easily. It's way less of the okay, I find a job and then I stay there for my whole life. We see examples all around us of people getting fired who have done the same job for 30 years, even if they did their job really well. You know, you don't dictate everything that is happening. The job market is fluctuating so much more right now, and that's fine, and maybe you need to cope with it. And not knowing what you're doing or where you're heading is also fine, because it also gives you some more flexibility if you actually need to change your path. So don't worry about what you will do in 10 years. I think we have so much uncertainty. You don't need to stretch yourself out with that, but focus on the things that make you learn, and the path will figure itself out. So stop thinking about your 10-year plan, and maybe you can ask yourself this little question so it can help you. If you stop thinking about your goals or the long run, what would you actually explore, try, or pursue in the next 6 months? This might help you or give you some ideas. Mindset shift number 2. Don't wait to be an expert to show yourself. You know, the who am I to share this, the imposter syndrome. Don't worry, I have it too. I also have this. But I really strongly believe that you don't need to wait to be an expert to show yourself. First of all, because you'll probably never think you're an actual expert. I think it takes a lot of guts to say that you're an expert, and most of us would only say that, you know, we're never ready or we never know enough. So that's not really a possibility. And I really think that now, especially this generation, has understood the importance of visibility. It doesn't have to be on social media or in Instagram or anything, but being visible, like existing in your space, has so much value, because then people know you exist, and so you are way more likely to have some opportunity or do anything or work with anyone. It's literally just this. If you're not visible, then you don't exist. And if you don't exist, well then life happens without you. So don't wait to be an expert, because this will never happen, or very unlikely that you will call yourself an expert. But also, people don't connect with experts. People connect with people. People connect with journeys, with personality, with what we're going through, what we're thinking, how we're learning. And especially in a world where AI is rising, I think what makes us so valuable as human beings is that we have an actual journey, that we have a personal path, that we are designing our own way, learning from our mistakes. We're full of paradox, and we're just always trying to learn a little bit. And that's, I think, the most valuable thing that we have. And so we might as well use it to connect with other humans. And also, sharing what you're learning builds trust. And I really think that we need trust in this world. So just accept and acknowledge the fact that you don't know everything and that it's fine. And sharing your own journey, your lessons, what you're learning. And that's how people will stick around. So don't wait to have your painting finished to actually show it to the world, but share your process, share your thoughts, share your inspiration, and this will make the final painting so much more interesting. And for this mindset shift, I would really add just a mention for all the designers, all the artists who are trying to grow a presence over on social media. Don't post only your finished work. Like, that's nice, but you know, I have the same in a magazine. What I want to see when I see you, it's your process. It's how you're thinking. It's how things are working. It's your inspiration. This is where the real value is, because you're the one designing, so you are able to share your process. Now, mindset shift number 3. You're not stuck in your path. This goes with the first point of you don't need to know where you're going. Now we're talking about the journey. Even if you don't know where you're going, but you're on a path that is bringing you somewhere, you don't have to be stuck on this path. For example, I'm an architecture student. At one point, I was asking myself, do I really want to be an architect? I don't really know. Do I want to stick to architecture? I don't really know. But I think I really started to love what I was studying when I understood that what was interesting me was not the outcome, but what I was learning. in your path, in the experiences you're making, in the studies you're doing, in the job you're in, you are learning things. And these things can be applied to other fields, other missions, other jobs, other whatever, like even in your personal life. And that's where the value is. It's from what you're learning. And if you're in a path, you're learning really cool stuff, you're doing really cool stuff, it doesn't matter if the outcome is not what you want. What is important is what you're learning, what you're getting out of it. And then you're not stuck in this path. You can just change. As I was telling you, like the jobs are constantly fluctuating. There's new jobs happening pretty much every single day. And so the most important is not being in your path. It's just being able to jump from one thing to another and always use the skills that you have. And yeah, as an architecture student, we learn a lot of technical stuff, and it feels like if you're not using the degree correctly, like if you're not a proper architect doing real architecture things, then you're kind of losing the prestige. But I don't think that's the truth. And I really think that you can focus on your skills, on critical thinking, problem solving, the user understanding, the visual communication, and that this is the true worth that you have. So a degree is a foundation, it's not a prison. A job is giving you skills, knowledge, it's also not a prison. And yeah, you don't have to be stuck where you are, and you always have the freedom to change it. And this brings us to the mindset shift number 4. You don't need external validation to succeed. Yes, this is a difficult one, even for myself. I very much struggle with that one. So I put it for you and for me at the same time. So we are used to having validation from grades, from likes, from titles, from internships, If you do something well, people will think that you're good, and so you will have validation if they show you that you're good. But this becomes pretty fragile when you actually start evaluating your worth with what other people will think of it. And especially not only what they will think, but how they will make you understand how they think. This is the tricky part. I think that confidence has a lot to do with the validation from others, but not having the validation doesn't mean that you're worth nothing. I will give you my personal experience. At the beginning of the semester, I was searching for an internship in interior design, and I thought I had the skills, the knowledge, and the experience to be able to get an internship and to look worth it, you know what I mean? But I couldn't get an internship. People didn't have a space for me. I don't know, people were not interested, or maybe I was there at the wrong moment. I didn't really know what it was, but I didn't get anything for like 2 months. And it was a big struggle for me because I didn't have this external validation of getting the internship. So someone saying like, you're good enough, I want you. Then I kind of lost trust in myself, in my abilities to do it. Although maybe it was not really my fault, just people didn't need someone else because of the market, because of how things were going. But, I took it personally, of course, and this is very dangerous. I ended up actually getting an internship, and it really boomed, like it pushed my self-worth so much in this field. And I think you seek external validation when you're unsure of your skills. Also, it happens mostly at the beginning. Like at the beginning when I started YouTube, I was seeking external validation so much. And now it's fine, It's not, I don't care, but I don't value it that much. And I think it all comes down to confidence, but also knowledge of yourself. When you start knowing and understanding and seeing the patterns, you don't rely as much on it. And it's more when you're building yourself, when you're trying to understand everything, that you are relying so much on it. So build your trust in yourself with just small actions. You're keeping promises to yourself and showing up when no one is watching. This is the most important, not what everyone else is seeing or thinking. And yeah, confident is not loud. Confident, it's quiet. It's built over time and it adds up. And mindset shift number 5, you don't need to fit in. Okay, this has also been quite a struggle for me. I think now I've gotten better at it just because I've moved so much that I don't fit in anyways. So now I've just acknowledged that it's maybe part of my personality. But I want to talk about the I must fit in or fit into my role to actually succeed or to do something or to be accepted. I really think that you can shape your own role over time and you don't need to fit into your role. Okay, let's take another example of myself. When I entered architecture school, I thought I needed to fit into the architecture student. And so I was studying in France and I felt a bit like disconnected to other students. We didn't really have the same hobbies, the same things that were interesting us. I don't know, just didn't vibe that much. I really tried to push myself to fit into my idea of what an architecture student should be. And somehow it didn't work because that's not who I am. I wanted to do stuff on social media, communication, and that was not cool in architecture. It didn't fit in, that's definitely sure. And I tried, but without really trying because it didn't feel right. And then I moved to Germany, to Hamburg, and went to another university. And there it felt like, because I was already an outsider, I didn't have to fit in. Like, I didn't care anymore because I already didn't fit in, but somehow there I felt like I fit in a bit more into the way that people were thinking and what they were liking and their daily habits. I saw way more of myself there. So maybe you don't fit in where you are, but you might fit in somewhere else. And sometimes just not fitting in is really fine. So if you're starting a new job, an internship, if you're entering a new field, usually like you have this first instinct of wanting to fit in. Usually it doesn't work. And you're just making a generality of everyone else. And it doesn't mean that there's like, this is what an architecture student is and should be. This is what an engineer is and should be. And this is, no, it doesn't work like this. No one actually fits in. So don't worry if you don't fit in. And that's when I want to talk about how you can embrace not fitting in. This is especially valuable if you're interested in two different things, two different fields, or even more. You can actually introduce hybrid careers. You don't need to make your career out of one thing. You can make your career out of multiple things. For example, me, I've kind of shaped my own career as being architecture and communication. And this not fitting into architecture because I had this side project actually made me build my own identity. And that's pretty cool. And you can do it with very different things. I see other people also in architecture doing finance at the same time, or, landscape and biology and whatever. And this is so much more interesting, and you can actually bring so much more into the table because you're differentiating yourself. So instead of trying to fit in, actually try to fit less, and maybe you will find your own identity through it. And yeah, just know it's okay that your role doesn't have a name yet, or that your type of individual doesn't exist already, and it's fine, and you can just be the first one of that matter. So let's bring it all together. These are the 5 mindset shifts I want you to make for 2026. I can design my path step by step. My learning process has value. My skills are transferable and evolving. I build trust within myself first, and I can shape my own role over time. These are not overnight changes. These are practices. These are mindset shifts that you can make every single day. It's just another way of looking at things, and I hope it can really help you achieve a life that feels a little bit more aligned with what you want. Because I strongly believe that designing your way doesn't mean having control, but that it means staying connected to yourself as things change. So for this beginning of the year, this episode was just your gentle reminder that everything will be fine, and that if you're in a blurry transition, You're not alone. I'm in that blurry transition too. It's looking very blurry, but it's looking fine. I really invite you to reflect on which of these shifts feel most important right now for you and how they can maybe add a little bit of lightness into your own journey. If you like this episode, you can share it with someone who's navigating the same phase. You can also write down a review. This would help me so much. I'm really trying to make this podcast something that actually happens and grows over time. So having a review will really, really help the podcast get more reach. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one. Bye!